We're live. Okay, hey everybody, it is Andrew Lowen from Deliverance, and I am here to answer your questions in an Ask Me Anything that I kind of structured around game design and Kickstarter questions. So I'll just dive right in. I have a post on our Board Game Geek forums that I'll just be diving through. In addition to that, I have some questions on the Facebook post that I made in our group that should hopefully I should be able to get through them all. So I'll just dive right in. And by the way, if you have a question in the comments, feel free to ask in the comments. So here we go. All right, so Gus Bus asks, he just watched the playthrough from One Stop Co-op Shop, and our game looked better than any miniature skirmish game that I have owned. I like how this guy's teeing up the question. Okay, so his question is, it doesn't look like in a particular game. However, were you influenced by a certain game or designer when making this? Also, are t-shirts available? Thanks. So, yes, I was influenced by many games. I actually did a video on all of the games that really had a heavy influence on me. In particular, I'll call out Final Fantasy Tactics and Fire Emblem. Those two games kind of served as the engine of the tactical combat. Pandemic, which, those two were video games. Pandemic, the board game, kind of served as the initial inspiration behind the Darkness cards and the way that interacted with the tactical combat. So those were the two games, and I highly encourage you to check out that video. It's broken up by timestamps, and you can kind of browse by section. If you know what Japanese RPGs are but don't know what MOBAs are, you can skip those sections. So t-shirts are going to be available. We're gonna make an announcement shortly with add-ons, and hopefully everyone will be able to get their t-shirts. Okay, so the town, Derek asks, the town you use in the game is rather random. Where did it come from, and why did you use it? He's joking. It's my hometown. Fallbrook is where I live. Any expansions planned, and if so, how many? Also, if so, any plan on adding it to the current Kickstarter campaign? We do have expansions planned. In fact, the game's story kind of tees up for a standalone expansion. But I'm not exactly sure. I feel like Fallbrook by itself could be expanded, and the standalone expansion is certain. I mean, certainly there's a lot of room for that. So there you go. But no plans on adding additional gameplay content, like, serious gameplay content like that, like a brand new expansion to the current Kickstarter campaign. I want to make sure that all the stuff that I do is tested and ready, Next, what type of material did you study in the game's development? I love to geek out on early Second Temple Jewish writing, so please don't hold back. I'm not sure if I'm going to excite you or disappoint you, but I did a lot of Bible study in the preparation of, just to get the lore correct. You really need to know what the Bible says and what it says about angels and demons, and every book out there that is on this topic, I feel like it does have merit, but I place an extra emphasis on making sure that I know why the pieces connect. And so a ton of reading in the Bible and studying back and forth as for, how certain things connect and whatnot. I'll give you two specific passages that are really awesome. The first one is Jude. Jude, the whole book, it's only one chapter. It's like, 5 minutes of reading or less. It's it goes into various types of I guess rebellion, if you will. It goes into rebellion of the Jews, rebellion of Gentiles, and rebellion of angels, and uses examples from that. And I find that's really interesting. Also, you look at 2 Peter chapter 2, has a lot of the same, and I would emphasize a heavy study on those things. Very, very interesting on angels. And so anyway, Brandon Robertson, are we going to get any all-in exclusives? The matte and metal coins are cool but expensive. I've seen questions around the value of the all-in. We're backing all-in either way. Thanks, Brandon. But yes, some people do have questions about the value of the all-in. The matte is huge and pricey and everything like that, but We have actually been working with our manufacturer to find ways to make it a little more affordable, and we are going to announce an addition to the all-in that will be an add-on for everybody else, but the all-in is going to just get it without any additional cost, which should make it really exciting. And that will be acrylic standees. So we're going to get beautiful acrylic standees that are thicker, 50% thicker than the normal cardboard standee, and beautiful full art, and really nice looking. And then we're gonna get 46 bases and 46 stands, which are all the standees in the game. So very nice quality of life improvement. Okay, Mike Saloom asks, the glowing barriers on the game boards that block angel movement. Thematically, what do they mean? Like, are there any pouches of deep evil such that the angels cannot bypass them? And so the answer to this, functionally, we have to have some kind of wall in order to make the skirmish matter. And it's kind of awkward that angels can just pass through walls. So thematically, the darkness from the human realm manifesting in the spiritual realm is kind of manifesting in two different ways. You've got the evils of the human realm bleeding in as those darkness cards, and then you've also got this other stuff, which is kind of a strange mist that is emanating from the ground, which blocks, in essence, is a barrier. It blocks the movement and line of sight, but and you would have to move around them and calculate your range for your skills around those barriers, and that's thematically what they are. So let's see. Okay, I went all in. Can I get one of those large Angel Initiative metal coins before the release of the game? It's beautiful, and feel free to explain the significance of its many design elements. So yes, the metal coin is this gigantic pog slammer. It is 8 millimeters thick. If you have metal coins from any other game, they are typically 2 millimeters thick. So stack 4 metal coins on top of each other, and that is how thick this one Angel Initiative token is. It is also about 2 inches in diameter, which is very large. Think, large silver dollar, about a large silver dollar. And so the design elements. In fact, we kind of went in detail about this on our Facebook group, as well as the Kickstarter comment section about the metal coins. There's kind of a Celtic Trinity symbol in the center of that metal coin, and then surrounding it, there are these interesting runes. And I'll give you guys the long story that you can go read in the Facebook group, but I'll give you the short version, which is my sister-in-law wrote what I can best only really describe as a heavenly language, a heavenly script, and we digitized that and recorded it in the runes. And the cool part was that we actually, she suddenly passed away. This is over 10 years ago now. She suddenly passed away, and then we opened up her journals. The family opened up her journals because we wanted to kind of have our dose of Brie, because we missed her. And then that's when we discovered all of this interesting script that she wrote in her journals to God. And so that is what these runes are. All the runes, one of my concerns in the game with runes make things look cool, but I wanted to know what those runes were. I didn't want to just make something or just add something because it's cool. What if I wrote something terrible in a different language or something on accident? And so the runes are another element of purposeful things in the game. So I'll let you read the longer post. He also Mike asks, what add-ons are you planning? And so the first add-on we have is the the neoprene mat. We're gonna give that as a different add-on. We're also gonna do the metal, the set of metal coins. That's gonna be all 15 of the thick courage tokens. Those are 3 millimeters thick, and the 8 millimeter thick gigantic metal initiative token. That'll all come together. We're also going to do t-shirts, which everybody has been really clamoring over, and we're going through designs right now. And then we have another add-on which we're going to do, which is acrylic standees. So an upgrade from the cardboard standees. People in the base game or the deluxe edition would enjoy them. We are going to include the angels in these so that you can, take your pick between minis and angels. I know that, or minis and standees. I know that some people do prefer one over the other. So it's not too much to add the angels, and so that's what we're doing. All right. Also, you had mentioned there were going to be some exciting details about the neoprene mat. Is there anything you can share with us at this time? Yes. So I'm working with our map artist, who is Johan Boissonnet. His works include Mansions of Madness, Lord of the Rings, Journeys of Middle Earth. He's the map maker for all of these awesome games, and so we had him do our map tiles in the game, in Deliverance, and he is actually working on turning all the map tiles that we put together. We're actually putting them all together and creating a gigantic image of the city of Fallbrook that will be kind of covered in fog. So it's as though when you put a one of the game's map tiles on top of that, it's as though you are kind of, the fog is separating, and then you're seeing more detail of that element of the city. And I think it looks really cool. I'm not ready to show it yet, but as it gets closer, that's what we'll do. All right, so Oblivion Doll. From, let's see. Oh, hey, Lynn. I'll jump into your question here in a second. In fact, let's do it right now. Lynn, from the comments, asked, wouldn't it be cool if this branched off into a D&D campaign where they coincide? I do have thoughts about the D&D, really turning it into an RPG. A lot of people ask that. It's a pretty popular question. And at the moment, I personally don't think that I'm qualified to make an RPG. I can play them, and I know I know how to have fun, but I wouldn't consider myself an RPG designer, so I would probably work with someone. We're talking to other people, but there's nothing set in stone yet. I definitely would like to make Deliverance an RPG, because it seems like there really is a lot of demand for it. So, all right, Oblivion Doll asks, from looking at a lot of the angel and demon cards we've seen, the angels have a tendency for tests. So this is a game design question. Tests are, you basically roll two six-sided dice together, like you're playing Catan, and you add the two numbers, and then if your numbers meet or exceed the result that you needed, you pass, and then if they don't, you fail. So you might have prey tests or other tests to see if you deal extra damage or something like that with various skills. So angels have a tendency for tests to be 7 or better, while demons are often testing at 8 or better. On two six-sided dice, this makes most tests favorable for angels, and while making demon tests more likely to fail. I'm curious if this was done purely for the game balance, considering the angels are usually outnumbered, or if it was a deliberate thematic element as well to show that angels have the advantage in this battle, even if the game is not that easy. So the answer behind tests, so the first thing is the math behind tests. When you roll two six-sided dice together, you are the most likely number to roll is a 7. You don't have an equal chance of getting a 1 through a 6 and a 7 through 12, for example, because when you roll two dice together, you're going to get the minimum number you can get is 2. So the odds are stacked differently, and so to roll 7 or better with a pair of six-sided dice is 57.1% odds. So you have better than even to get that number. Now, I thought that was pretty important because actually in our test, we actually used to roll only a single six-sided dice for tests, and you roll 4, 5, or 6, you pass. You roll 1, 2, or 3, you fail, and that was even odds. So 50-50 odds to cast down a darkness card or to do other things. And we felt like that was actually a little too punishing. In tests, 50-50 can go terribly. If you've ever flipped a coin, sometimes it'll land on heads 8 times in a row, right? And that's just kind of how it works. So we wanted it to favor players more. And we just, through a lot of playtesting, experimented, and we found 2d6 rolling a 7 or higher is actually is exactly what we want. So we tried a 10-sided die, and to roll like 6 or better, or 5 or better, and this just felt better, just felt great. So 2 6-sided die, and the rest. So the angels were designed that way, the prey action and everything like that. But the rest of the skills that we've created were kind of designed around, so testing designed around the power level of the various skill. So, if something is a guarantee with a chance of a bonus effect, then it can be more, we might make it more difficult to achieve the result of the test, because you already have a guaranteed result, and then that bonus shouldn't happen all the time, right? Now, if things are more powerful effects, let's say, or additional damage that angels would take or something like that, we might make that less common so that it doesn't, overwhelm the angels. So we enjoy testing is actually one of the ways that we add in some randomness to the game so that you can't solve the game. There are other ways as well, but testing is really important. And that randomness we do play with to kind of give everybody, keep everybody guessing in the midst of a game. So I feel like I could talk about testing for a long time, but it might get really boring to people, so I'll move on. All right, Lane Ardell. I watched your gaming history video and thought that was great. My question is about your martial arts. What lesson have you learned in training that has helped in angel talent progression and development? And in follow-up, have you mentally or physically composed a training ritual for each angel? That's an interesting question. So to kind of go into my martial arts history, I started training in karate at the age of 12, or maybe it was a little younger than that, like 10. And at 14, I got into high school wrestling. I wrestled for about 10 years through high school, college, and a little bit after that. And then I got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu around 2007, and it's now 2021, so I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 14 years. So I am a 4-stripe brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. My next rank is black belt, and I think I might have paused. I might have earned my black belt this month or next month if I didn't have a Kickstarter to run. I can't get into the gym very much right now. So the lessons I've learned in training, so that relate to angel talents. I mean, I definitely have a deep understanding of various martial arts styles, and that really helps. Certain angels really are very martial arts focused. Miko is a spear user that really uses a lot of the kind of like ancient spear techniques from feudal Japan and other things like that. And so I do have an understanding from studying martial arts for a long time of kind of the techniques of these weapons. I have an understanding of kind of hand-to-hand combat, and that really helps in the design of the next angel that we will be revealing here. So that was an interesting question. I didn't expect it. So in follow-up, have I mentally or physically composed a training ritual for each angel? I haven't, although I guess I definitely have given them each a style. So they, Michael uses a kind of, for lack of he's kind of a Brazilian that uses a Scottish claymore in the way that he attacks. And so they are consistent with the martial arts style of the weapon they use. So Uriel being a single, handed sword user, he strikes that way. Michael being a kind of a dual wielding, two-handed sword user, he strikes that way. So Uriel is going to hit you a lot more than Michael will, but Michael's strikes are going to be a lot stronger. So that's kind of how, just building the feel into the angels. Okay, Matt Zemer, I would love to hear more about the campaign if you can offer it. And he has a bunch of questions related to the campaign. So let's kind of go through his questions, and I'll just answer one by one and then give you a little bit of insight into the campaign. So first, it is variable player count, and how did you manage the balance? So the nice thing about Deliverance is that the system balances itself very nicely no matter the player count. So whether it's 1 to 4 players, the game is going to balance based off of number one, the number of enemies that enter play, then number two, the number of darkness cards that enter play, number three, the number of saints that are on the map. So number four, of course, the number of map tiles and how large the map is. So that's pretty important. Now with the campaign, the map is the size that it is. We actually have we tell you what map tiles to take out and how to place them and where the enemies go and how many to put here and there. So we do not do this through battle cards. We actually do it right in the campaign book. So one game that might strike a similar chord is Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven actually tells you how many of each enemy to place depending on the player count. And we have this cool way that we use that is similar to Gloomhaven. We have an enemy's portrait. We place that right on the tile in the space that they're supposed to begin, which may not be on the traditional the runed spaces that are used in the or the marked spaces that are used by the battle cards. We mark if that demon is to be used in like 1 or 2 player or 3 player or 4 player. And so for 4 players, which is the highest play count of Deliverance, you would just place all the demons on the board. For, different player counts, you would look at the various portraits, and certain icons or certain symbology would just, very simple and easy to tell. You would see how much or how many of these little icons are there, and you would either place that or place that character or not place the character depending on your player count. That wasn't very clear, but I guess it would be a whole lot easier if I would show a picture, which I will do. But I promise you that it does work, and it works really easily. So does it function the same as a regular game? It does not. So that is one of the ways the campaign branches from the skirmish mode. Now, one of the cool things about this campaign system is that we can say, I can put one of a particular demon, or, maybe use 5 types of demons in a 2-player game, which would be very uncommon in the skirmish mode of of Deliverance. And so that we can do all sorts of fun things there, but we do balance in a similar manner. So, an average of, let's just say, 4 demons in a 2-player game in the first battle. That's kind of, we have our benchmarks for the campaign as well. So, and then also we balance based on talents, the demon talents. So, I'll move on. So let's see. Do you have any themes or hints as to the campaign story that you can share? Yeah. So the game's name is Deliverance, and that theme, the theme of Deliverance, is something that I really wanted to, I guess the concept of deliverance and what that word means, I wanted to explore that in a bunch of ways in the campaign. And so you are going to be delivering the saints from evil. You're going to be, kind of helping, we'll say, helping saints with their problems, in the physical realm. And you're going to kind of uncover this plot that I'm not going to really talk so much about. And you're going to try to stop this plot as well. So that's there's a few of the hints. And all right, so is the campaign linear or is it branching? So this was something that we thought about. He asked a question: if it was branching, how do you go about writing the various elements and connecting them to the main story? So we decided on a linear campaign because the story is, you can make the story of a linear campaign a little bit more consistent and interesting versus a branching story. Let's say something like Gloomhaven. Nobody really plays Gloomhaven for the story. You're more playing it for your character's progression and things like that. And so you have this infinitely branching story that doesn't really feel extremely connected. In general, a game like the Isofarian Guard, which is an excellent one, has a branching story that reconnects at certain points. So there are points in the Isofarian Guard that you have to go talk to the king. The story's not going to advance, your levels aren't going to advance until you go talk to the king and activate that kind of story element. Then you can branch off into 3 different directions after that, but there'll come a point where you have to go, I'm just making stuff up, you have to go through the caves, right? And that's kind of how branching stories oftentimes work. You can, the branching story path sometimes influences the ending, but it's usually filled with plot holes and difficult to navigate, unless you make a lot of the plot kind of superficial, like, oh, there are rats in someone's cellar, go fix it. And now that you talk to the person, they have a quest for you. Little things like that will work, but it's hard to turn that into like a massive, like, cohesive story that crescendos at the end. A linear campaign has all of the awesomeness of a crescendo at the end, and a story that you care about. So that's why the campaign's linear. Are all angels available for the campaign? Yes, they are. So no matter which angel you play, the campaign is narrated in second person. So it's you. It talks about you. It doesn't talk about, a particular angel. It's not like Michael did this or whatever. It might, reference back to points in scripture that Michael, the archangel, did something, which you will be remembering. So other things like that. So, have you considered a mini campaign tutorial mission series to teach the game to players? Actually, yes. So the first 2 missions of the campaign are to teach the game to a new player. The first mission, the elements of the game are going to be gated, and you're going to gain just a little bit more understanding each of the missions that you play. So, the first 2 missions, the first mission is just about learning the tactical combat in the game. So you would try to destroy all the demons on the battlefield within 4 rounds, or you lose the game. And actually, this is kind of touching on something that I think everybody would be interested in knowing. There are alternate victory conditions in the campaign. So in the very first mission you play, you have to destroy all the demons, but you're actually tracking the number of rounds. So if it ever makes it to round 5, you lose. So that's an alternate loss condition. So the very first mission is going to teach you how to win the game, destroy all the demons, what to do, and that sort of thing. The second mission will also kind of be a destroy all demons mission, but you're going to have angel talents, you're going to have demon talents, and the darkness cards are going to begin to enter into play at that time. We're going to have missions that involve you escorting saints. So get this saint from that space to the other space, and that's how you win. You're going to have others that might be survive X number of rounds, and other things that I think are really exciting that I will be revealing over the course of the Kickstarter here pretty soon. So that answers that. Now, Guacacoli asked a question. I noticed there was no archer type angel. Shulia and Sardius both have a long range focus, but seem to focus more on light and earth powers, and not specifically an archer. I was wondering if there was a reason behind this. And yes, there is a reason behind this. It's kind of a weird reason, so I guess bear with me. It was one of those things I actually argued with God about. So I feel weird sharing this because it's people who are not religious or not Christians might find this strange, but I wanted an archer. I had weapons and equipment related to archery, and I decided not to. Do I? Oh, okay. My wife needs her phone. Here you go. So, I kept running into problems designing the archer character. He was originally going to be kind of like an ice-based angel that kind of controlled the wind, a different type of wind, blizzards and things like that. And I was having a really hard time making him work, making him feel fun, and I kept running into problems. Also, there were other, heavenly treasure that were like a quiver, you know, an arrow quiver, but there was no actual bow weapon, and it would be weird if Michael the Archangel benefited from putting a quiver on his back. And so there were other kind of thematic issues behind an archer. And now, while I will say that an archer is not necessarily out of the equation, I kind of find it interesting that all the angels have some sort of physical close combat prowess, and I think that that's going to be really that's very important for the way that the game works. But also, it's interesting. I don't know. It's just I guess it's hard to say that there would never be another archer. I think that there might, but um, I just it was one of those funny times that I argued with God as to why isn't there an archer? Why can't I make one? And I was kind of salty about it. It was weird. So I guess feel free to follow up with another question on that. But there you go. Now, he said, so next person says, I saw a few people asking for in-depth sections on the angels, princes, and demons. I think something like this, as well as a quick reference guide, would be super helpful. They've missed a couple of rules, like maximum of 5 treasures, but maybe this was just my fault. So we have to be careful with a game like this because the rule books can be massive. Many of you are familiar with, if you play games like this, 50-page rule books with a 30-page reference guide attached, just so that you play the game right. And I don't know about you guys, but I actually am extremely annoyed whenever I have to run into a rule book like that. It's like they're trying to make me play a lifestyle game that I'm going to play for the rest of my life. And like Lord of the Rings, Journeys of Middle Earth did this, where they have a rule book, an advanced rule book, and a quick start guide. And it's like, I feel like they could have simplified things. But that's just me. So I didn't want a gigantic, thick rule book. I do understand the need for a reference guide for things like, symbols, or maybe bold terms like what is shield, or what are boons, what are afflictions, what is this particular affliction, and things like that. So I am very open to that. I just don't want to turn the rulebook from 32 pages into like 60 pages. That just feels very unfun to me, and I think I would have a hard time busting that out if I were playing the game, or just trying to learn a game. Right? I would have a hard time getting it to the table. Okay. So, and by the way, on rules, I would personally rather have people miss a rule, as long as it's not game breaking. I would rather have people miss a rule than, not want to play, not want to open the box because they're intimidated by the rules. I do think that the rules will, we have another iteration of the rule book that we're working on that will come out, and a lot of you have been really helpful with that. But I guess making it too long, I think, doesn't really serve anybody. Okay. Now, Mike asks, I would like to know if I could switch gameplay from 2 players to solo back to 2 players in the same campaign. And I guess technically you can. The way that you would do it is there's a character tracking sheet in the campaign that is used to track your progress. You would track how many games you've played. If you've won missions in mission 1 through 14, you would mark if you've beaten that mission, and so you would know what mission you're on. If, let's say, you played 2 players through the first 4 missions, then you soloed the next 2, you could totally do that with that character. And then if you wanted to go back, and let's say mission number 7, you had your friend come back, what you could do is you could look at the rewards for the missions that they missed and grant them those rewards. They would have their character sheet that you would be able to kind of catch them up real easy if you wanted to do it that way. So you can, upgrade and downgrade your characters and the number of characters if you wanted to, but technically, I would recommend the mission that or the number of characters you start with is the number that you would finish. But yeah, totally, if somebody falls off, then your character will be perfectly scaled, or the remaining characters will be perfectly scaled to play at that player count. So there you go. Now, All right, so we've got four more questions. Number one, what would you say to Christians who dismiss the game on the basis that, quote, spiritual warfare is not a game? Is there any way to show them the value of game as an art form, or of games as an art form? So I try not to sell anybody to anything to people that don't want to buy. And the idea when somebody tells me, as a Christian who dismisses games, period, and says, "Oh, spiritual warfare is not a game," I don't try to convince them otherwise, unless like they're across the table from me and we're hanging out over coffee. It's just not worthwhile to have an argument on social media with people. So I don't, I don't even try. So, all right. So, and by the way, I do think that it's kind of a childish way to, when people attack you as a gamer and say, "Oh, this is, games are childish," or they look at, "Oh, spiritual warfare is not a game." It's it's so spiritual warfare is not a game. We're not. It's not a Ouija board that you're playing when you're playing Deliverance. It's a game, and it's very purposefully designed in a way that is not like you're opening up like a Ghostbusters, whatever, the thing with all the ghosts in it. If you open the box, it's not like all the ghosts and demons just fly out of here. It is designed as a game specifically for the purpose of playing a game, and not so much designed to feel real. If it was real, it would be a little too terrifying. I don't think anybody would want to play it. So there is absolutely a certain level of, demons looking comical or cutesy a little bit, and not super grotesque and not or super angelic. I actually think that demons, the truth about demons, I think that they look beautiful, or fallen angels in real life. So we don't actually do what we're not trying to portray things as real, which would be a problem for a lot of people. Okay, so somebody asked, Scotty asked for what feels like the first time Christians are finally producing quality film projects, but when it comes to the gaming landscape, the content is still pretty stark. What advice do you have for artists and developers hoping to bring Christian themes and motifs into that space? Well, the first bit is to make your game about being an awesome game. Make a game that is an awesome game. Don't make a game meant to educate people or to save the lost or things like that. While that sounds like a noble thing for a Christian to do, I kind of feel like you fail right at the very beginning with this hypothesis that you make. You think that because you're making this game to save souls, that it is going to do well. In actuality, it's probably going to do very poorly because you failed with your target market. The first thing is, so in other words, nobody's going to want to play it. The Christians are going to say, "Well, I'm already saved. I don't need to be saved or anything, and that game's not for me." And I'm not going to share it with my non-Christian friend because that's kind of embarrassing. A lot of people tend to cringe over things like that, which are very common for Christian games to actually not be games at all. They're very paper thin game mechanics that are not innovative, that wrap a very thick layer of education. I'm trying to teach you the Bible. I'm trying to teach you the whatever. And I just think that's a mistake. Now, also the non-Christians aren't going to want to play it either, because we play games to kind of escape reality and to have fun and to let off some steam. We don't play games where you're Donald Trump or you're Joe Biden or whatever, because that doesn't feel like a game. That feels like real life, and I'm not here to I'm here to entertain myself. I'm not here to do what we do in real life and deal with real issues. I want to play a game. So Christians should absolutely play games in order, or make games that are fun and innovative. And in order to do that, you need to have played a lot of games. I went over my experience, of playing games and all the years that I've played games and all the genres and the games that stood out to me, specifically to show, well, because people were asking, what experience do you have, right? And I think that is really important, that if you want to make a good game, that you should know what a good game feels like, and you should know what you like, and so there you go. Next question. My household currently exceeds the maximum number of players. Will future expansions of the game allow for more players? And the answer is, so we used to have a fifth player. The problem with a fifth player was that it made the game a little bit too swingy. It was too long, too much time in between your character's turns and other things like that. We may add that fifth player back in. I cut it and our life got better, and I actually haven't attempted to add a fifth player back in for like the last probably 8 months. So we may, and it could absolutely return. The game is built to scale properly with no matter the number of players. It's just the other types of problems, like, for example, area of effect attacks that target a number of spaces or a number of demons, can get very, very powerful. And you might end a battle in 1 or 2 rounds, or die in 1 or 2 rounds, to all the demons out there. And so it just, at the time, we didn't have a great implementation of 5 or more. So you can house rule somebody to play control the forces of darkness, but it's always something that I would do at conventions or something like that. If I had 4 players and I was a fifth, I would just let them play, and I would control the forces of darkness, and then I would almost act as like the game master, narrating what's happening and that kind of thing, and that was a lot of fun. So that's always an option. So last question: what was your process for making each angel distinct, both in their visuals and their gameplay? So it's a good question. Each angel, I remember designing each angel and coming up with the process of each angel. So we would spend we would come up with kind of a concept, and each angel would be based off of a culture, and they would have a particular like style, like a thing that they did, or something that they or maybe even we'd start from like a Bible verse. But for Michael the Archangel, for example, I knew that I wanted him to basically kind of be like Conan the Barbarian, with his body type being like a huge, muscly power lifter. That's not very, Renaissance or anything like that, but I felt like each body type kind of needed to be represented. So you've got Michael's a really big dude. He doesn't have like washboard abs. He has like a big giant gut that looks strong, but he just looks thick, right? And that's what I want. That's what I wanted with Michael. I remember spending like probably 2-3 hours writing up each individual angel and giving the write-up to my designer, and then also collecting images of things I liked and other things like that. And then after we got the sketches back, we then kind of customized. So each angel has a really, really interesting look, because there has been, probably 100 hours per angel invested between the art and the time that I've spent working through them and just refining them and that kind of thing. We kind of go back and forth. So one of the challenges with working with an artist and as an art director is you can't give too much direction. There's only so much room in the artist's brain for the words that are written on a piece of paper. You need them to also add their brand of creativity to the process, and that's why we had kind of a back and forth iterative process. I would give them the initial bulk of information. They would, I would have pictures of the outfits, or the body type, or maybe even I have a lot of people who are actually in my life who serve as the angel models. So my wife, or my sister-in-law, or my brother-in-law, or my best buddy, they're all represented by characters in the game. So I took pictures of them and said, use this face and that, or this pose, right? And so we did a lot of that. And so that's kind of the style. And then the actual gameplay of the angels, we really wanted to give each character a very unique feel. And a lot of the time, we based the character's gameplay off of it. It all often spawns in one of 2 ways. Either off of one skill that's really, really cool, and we build the entire character around that one skill, or off of an idea of a character that we'd really like to see. For example, Michael was built off of the idea of a berserker warrior that wants to run into combat and swing his sword. And the idea is that he'll he'll take damage in order to deal more damage. And so we came up with this character concept of of Michael that basically can get into combat, and we did a lot of testing in order to make all of the angels feel fun and unique and whatnot. But that's kind of how that started. Uriel began from a skill. The skill actually came from a video game called Final Fantasy VII. It was a skill called Omnislash, and a lot of people will know it, but basically your main character, Cloud, had this ultimate ability that he would hit something like 15 times with his sword, and it was really cool looking at the time. And I wanted that same feeling with Uriel. So originally we started with this skill that cost 4 courage, was an action, and you hit three targets. And it could be the same target, so you could hit the same target 3 times, and that felt cool. But we actually modified it to be the version it is today. You can still do the same stuff, but so anyway, the character Uriel is very much built around using that ability as many times as possible, and in a single round. And so that's kind of, so those are some of the ways that we built the characters. So that looks like all the questions that we have. I'm going to get this video up on YouTube for everybody, and we'll timestamp it like we did before. Hopefully it was useful and valuable. We'll see you guys in the Kickstarter comments. If you have any questions, feel free to add them as a comment to this video, and I will answer. All right. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and we'll talk soon.